I have some graphs in front of you there. I think one of them is the spectrum of financial independence.
Yeah.
Could you explain to me what that is and how that's useful to understand and why that's useful to understand?
I had this friend 10 or 20 years ago, and he said, I don't save any money because I don't see the purpose. All I'd be able to save is $100 a month. And what's that going to do for me? And since I don't think it's going to do anything for me, I might as well just go spend it. And I'm thinking, no, that's like $100 in savings. Or if you do it for a year, $1,200 in savings is $1,200 more independence than you had before. And again, not if, but when you lose your job or your car breaks down, you're going to realize how unbelievably valuable that money is. And it's not savings, it's independence that it's giving you. So the idea that independence is on a spectrum, it is not you either don't have to work or you have to work. It's not that stark, but most people think of it in those terms. Why would I try to become independent if I have no chance of not working? And the simple way to view it is every dollar that you save is a piece of your future that you own, that you control, that is yours. The flip side of that is like every dollar of debt that you have is a piece of your future that somebody else controls. It's a moment in time in the future that is not yours. It belongs to somebody else. And so I've always viewed it on a spectrum. When I was younger and much poorer, I was a big saver, even though was I independent? Like, no, of course I had to work. I had to work to pay my rent and pay my groceries, of course. But I viewed it as like every $20 that I saved, every $50 that I saved put me in a better position than I was before. And looking back on it, I don't think I could have articulated that 20 years ago, but it's what I felt. A lot of that for me back then was coming from a place of fear. I didn't have a lot of self-confidence in myself, in my career. So I was like, I need to save to prepare for when this all comes crashing down. And even though it didn't come crashing down, I'm so glad that I did it. Because I've had a sense of financial security and I've had a sense of independence financially since I was in my early 20s. Not because I had saved a ton, I hadn't, but any amount that I saved, I viewed as like the cushion that gave me a much higher sense of confidence that if or when things go wrong, I'm not going to be flailing. I'm going to have some cushion to fall back on.
And what is this spectrum? What are the stages of this spectrum?
So let's start at the very bottom. You're homeless, you're panhandling, reliant on the kindness of strangers. As you go up from there, you can be completely reliant on your boss in a job that you don't like. Now that's another low level. As you go up from there, you have, look, I'm relying on my job, I'm relying on my paycheck, but I probably have some opportunities. I could go work at another job. I could choose to work here. I could choose to work there. And then you go up from there. It's like, yo, I like my job and I have some savings. So if I lost this job, I can fall back onto it from there. You can go up from there to have, you can live where you want. You can work where you want. You can change fields. You can go and you can do a completely different job. You can take 2 months off and travel if you wanted to. Like you're working your way up all the way to the highest level of financial independence, which is I don't need to work anymore. I've saved enough and I can wake up every morning and do whatever I would like to do. That's obviously an aspiration that for most people will never be reached until they're maybe in their 70s and they're retiring and they have Social Security and some other savings from there. But for most people, like a good level of independence as a good goal is enough savings so that if you lost your job, if your car broke down, if you needed to replace the roof on your house, you would be able to do it without losing that much sleep. That is a realistic level that I think almost anyone can achieve.
Based on everything you know about money, if I want to get to that highest level of complete financial freedom, what's like the 5 things that I should be thinking about at just a sort of a very simple level? Because so many people listening right now think, my goal in life isn't to become a billionaire or tens of millionaire. My goal in life is just to get to that point of freedom as soon as I can, where I can start calling the shots. And there was someone who I was speaking to the other day and said that there's this internet movement of kids who are trying to get, what do they call it? It's like they're trying to get to the point where they can retire early. Fire something.
Financial independence, retire early.
Okay, that.
Yep.
Like how do I get there?
The first thing that I think that's most important, this is the first and the last thing, this is the most important part, is that all wealth, your feeling of wealth, is what you have minus what you want. And it's so easy to ignore the latter. I talk about in the book my late grandmother-in-law, my wife's grandmother, she passed away a couple years ago. For 30 years, she lived off of nothing but $1,700 or $1,800 a month in Social Security. Not a lot of money. By most accounts, very little money. But she didn't want anything more. If she made $1,700 a month, she did not want $1,700 in $1. She was perfectly happy. She found all of her happiness working in her garden, going for walks, watching the birds, watching the sunrise, watching the sunset, talking to her friends, hanging out with her family. But if you asked her, you said, you only make $1,700 a month. You're broke. Doesn't that make you unhappy? She'd be like, what? Like, do you think having more money makes the sunset more beautiful? Do you think having more money makes going for a walk more pleasant? And I'm not saying you should live like you should be content with that amount of money. But the point is, like, she was content. She was totally content, and it was her choice. And I think she was happier financially than some billionaires. Because there's a lot of billionaires who have $1 billion, but they want 2. They have 2 billion, but they want 4. One of the things is that happiness might be the wrong word here. The word that people want is content. When you sit here and daydream about having the bigger mansion, what you're actually doing is you are imagining yourself in the mansion being content with it. You imagine yourself sitting in that house and saying, I don't want anything more than this. The feeling that we are aspiring to is just being content. Happiness is always like a 30-second emotion. It's like laughter. Like if I tell you a funny joke, you'll laugh for 30 seconds and that's over. Like very few times in life are you happy for more than a couple minutes at a time. But what you want that is like a durable emotion is being content. Just saying like, I'm good with this. I don't want anything more.
I interviewed Dr. Anna Lemke, and she's like the scientist who's most renowned for talking about and writing about dopamine.
Yeah.
And I was wondering how much the molecule dopamine dovetails into this, because I think one of the things she said to me was that dopamine is the chemical for wanting.
Yeah.
And people have, I think, mistaken it for being the pleasure.
Happiness.
Yeah, happiness hormone.
It's more. It's like you want more.
And she told me this crazy study about this rat where they removed the dopamine receptor from its brain so it couldn't produce dopamine. And then they put food 2 inches from its mouth and the rat starved to death. Because and in that, I've always thought about that. It's like, okay, so that's what dopamine is. It's the motivation to go get, to want, to pursue. What role is dopamine playing here?
It's huge. And that's actually a good realization to be